Hey guys, it's Hollywood Studios here, and today we're going to be finally talking about something I know a lot of people have been requesting, and that is my predictions for what Six Flags Great Adventure will get next. And let me just clarify something before we get into this. I will be looking more so at coaster additions, as personally I do believe that we will not be getting a new ride next year in 2023. I believe our next new ride will be in 2024, and it will be a coaster. So this video will be looking at coaster additions. However, there could always be a flat ride that pops up next year at the park, and I may not predict that in this video. I'm really just looking at coaster predictions. Now, like I said, I do think the next coaster will be added to the park in 2024 for a number of reasons. For one, it's a pretty good gap between that and Jersey Devil. It's technically 3 years, but really it's 4 years since Jersey Devil was supposed to open in 2020. So Jersey Devil, even though it opened in 2021, was technically our 2020 edition, which will leave 4 years in between 2020 and 2024, which I think is a pretty good gap. Additionally, 2024 is an absolutely massive year for Six Flags Great Adventure, as that is actually the park's 50th anniversary. John Winkler, park president, has told us that they want to go all out for this anniversary and do something big that will change the park forever, and I think that a new coaster will definitely be able to do that. Now, there's definitely quite a few options to pick from when it comes to a new coaster at Great Adventure in 2024, and today we're going to be looking at all of those different coaster options and figuring out which one is the most likely to happen. First, let's take a look at some coaster options from manufacturers that Six Flags has worked with a lot recently. Let's start with the Premier Rides multi-launch coaster. I remember back in 2019 when the rumors were going all over the place about Great Adventure getting a new coaster in 2020, most people were predicting that it would be a Premier Rides multi-launch coaster similar to West Coast Racers. West Coast Racers at that time had not even opened yet, but it was supposed to open at Magic Mountain for the 2019 season, and it really would have been a perfect addition for Great Adventure. Currently, we are missing a ride that can bridge the gap between family and thrill. You pretty much go from Runaway Mine Train straight up to Superman, Green Lantern, all the big coasters at the park. So they really do need something to bridge that gap. I think a Premier multi-launch could definitely do the job. The only launch coaster we have at Great Adventure is King de Cobb, which its main focus is that launch. It's a very intense launch. It's the fastest coaster in the country. So I do think we could use a coaster that isn't necessarily fully focused on the launch, but is able to incorporate the launch with other parts of the ride like inversions and airtime. We obviously had something similar to that with Batman and Robin the Chiller, also produced by Premier Rides. That ride was super problematic, which is another reason why I'm kind of shooting down this coaster. We've heard that the maintenance team at Great Adventure cannot stand premieres. Batman and Robin the Chiller really did sour them because it was just an absolute maintenance nightmare. And while yes, Premier Rides has definitely changed a lot, they use a whole different launch system, new trains, new track and everything, I do think that the idea of a Premier Rides multi-launch coaster will still scare Great Adventure away from adding a ride like that. Even though I do think it's a great addition, a great possible addition for the park, I do not think that is what they're going to go with in 2024. Next is another coaster from a manufacturer who they work with very frequently, and that is from S&S and would be their new Axis coaster. Now, we have not seen an Axis coaster built yet. The only one that we have seen is the prototype at the S&S facility, and that is definitely a very interesting looking ride. The animation for the ride is also very different than the one that is built as the prototype. The prototype is a launch coaster. The animation is a ride with a lift hill. So it seems like this type of ride is very versatile. I know that when Fiesta Texas was making their announcement for their 2022 edition, pretty much everyone was betting on that it would be an Axis coaster. So when they got a dive coaster, it was quite the surprise. And unfortunately, I don't think an Axis coaster is very likely for Great Adventure. I think what Great Adventure really needs to focus on getting is a ride that is reliable, that has great capacity, and will overall be a crowd pleaser for the park. Don't get me wrong, an Axis coaster would probably be a crowd pleaser at the park. It's different than anything else at the park right now. The closest thing, I guess, is Joker since it flips, but the Axis coaster is a totally different spin on that. However, I do think that this ride probably won't be the most reliable. For starters, it's a prototype, as currently there isn't a full-scale Axis coaster that has been built. So if Great Adventure were to build this, it would probably have quite a few mechanical issues. Prototype rides always have issues. It's very rare for them not to. And I think Great Adventure kind of wants to stray away from rides that have big mechanical issues, as they already have King Ka on their hands, which is a very complicated roller coaster. The next coaster we'll be looking at is a ride from a manufacturer they just worked with, and that is from RMC, and would be a hybrid coaster. I think everyone's dream back in 2014 was that we were getting an RMC of Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder was the old dueling wooden coaster that was located right next to El Toro. It was pretty tall, pretty old, it was a fun ride, but it got old and eventually got torn down in 2013. What a missed opportunity. They could have easily turned that into a huge dueling hybrid coaster right next to El Toro. It would have been absolutely incredible. And I do still think a hybrid coaster could happen at the park, but not yet. I think a hybrid coaster would really complement all the other rides at Great Adventure very well. It would be a little similar to El Toro, but I do think that if they had it more focused on inversions, sort of like Untamed at Wallaby Holland, which focuses a lot on inversions but also has some airtime spiced in there too, I do think a ride like that would work great, especially filling the void that Rolling Thunder, and I guess technically El Diablo, filled for a little while as El Toro's neighbor. I think there definitely needs to be something done in Plaza del Carnaval where El Diablo used to stand. That ride has been gone since the end of 2018, and the station platform and queue is still there. That whole area is just asking for a new coaster, and I do think that a hybrid would be great for that area, but not yet. I don't think they're going to go ahead and do that yet. I think they're going to focus on something a bit bigger. And the reason I say this is because of the recent addition of Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger at Fiesta, Texas. I know I brought up this ride a few times, but it's a really big deal for the Six Flags chain. It shows that the Six Flags chain is now willing to work with the more expensive manufacturer, which is B&M, and build very high quality, high capacity, high reliability rides. And I do think that Great Adventure's next coaster will be a coaster from B&M. Now, B&M has quite a diverse selection of coasters. They have the dive coaster, the flying coaster, wing coaster. Great Adventure already has 5 of their coasters. They have a stand-up in Green Lantern, a flyer in Superman, a floorless coaster in Medusa, a hyper coaster in Nitro, and an inverted coaster in Batman. That actually limits the park to not many options from B&M. B&M does not have too many models, but I do think there are a couple models I could see Great Adventure going with. First, let's start with the oddball one, which is the Surf Coaster. Surf Coaster is brand new. It has not been confirmed yet as of the recording of this video, but we all know that SeaWorld Orlando is currently in the process of building a B&M Surf Coaster for the 2023 season. Basically, this ride is just a launched, somewhat inverting coaster. It doesn't really do too much. There's new restraints for it. We don't really know too much about it. All we know is that it's not as thrilling or intense as some of their other models. It's sort of a thrill family coaster. I do think something like that would work great at Great Adventure, but due to the recency of this model and the fact that one still isn't built or opened yet, I do think Great Adventure is going to hold off on a model like that for just a little while. Next is a wing coaster. I've been hoping for the park to get a wing coaster for so long, but I don't think it's going to happen in 2024. A wing coaster would definitely have a really good impact on the park, especially in my opinion if it was placed on the parking lot, replacing either Green Lantern, Superman, maybe even both. Obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon, but wing coasters are GP magnets. The fact that you hang on the sides of the track are really enticing to people coming into the park, but I do think that the Joker kind of takes away any idea of building one of these at the park. But then again, Six Flags Great America has a B&M wing coaster and a Joker free fly coaster, so it could happen, but I don't think that's what we're going to get in 2024. These next 2 coasters, in my opinion, are probably the most likely coasters for Great Adventure to get in 2024. One of them is probably going to blow your minds, and it blows my mind too, but there's actually quite a bit behind it. First, let's take a look at the one that's not going to blow your minds, and that's a B&M dive coaster. Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger is a B&M dive coaster, and it's being built at a Six Flags park in 2022, which is a pretty telltale sign that Six Flags is going to build more of these as long as it's successful. And I don't really see why it won't be successful. It's a very proven model, it's very popular, very big, very great ride, and I do think that this ride would fit very well at Six Flags Great Adventure. As for where, it could really go anywhere in the park. I think that either side could really use it. Maybe give it to the other side of the park, which is El Toro, King Ka, Medusa, since they just added Jersey Devil over by Nitro. But I could see it going over there too, as they do still have some room to work with over there, specifically in Metropolis. But a B&M dive coaster would be such a great fit at the park. It has that crazy 90-degree drop, which can even be made 95 degrees, or even steeper, maybe, we don't know yet. But the fact that you're held over the drop like that is very enticing to the general public. I do think a ride like that would perform very well at Great Adventure, especially because it's kind of a combination of coasters they already have. It has the floorless aspect of Medusa, it has the height of Nitro, depending on how big they decide to make it, and it has the inversions of Green Lantern, Medusa, Batman, other rides at the park too. So I do think a B&M dive coaster would be definitely a very safe bet to go with. It's fairly reliable, popular, but it's not really what I'm thinking. Call me crazy, but I do think there's a pretty good chance that Great Adventure could get a Giga. I know, that sounds absolutely insane, but when you think about it, it's not too far-fetched. Great Adventure is one of the most visited theme parks in the entire country, and one of the top ones in the Six Flags chain. Great Adventure also has more land to work with than any other Six Flags park. They could stuff a B&M Giga coaster literally anywhere. When you take a look at Great Adventure's most popular attractions, they're El Toro, Nitro, King Ka, Jersey Devil, and then from there it goes Green Lantern, Superman, but the main ones are El Toro and Nitro if you ask me. Nitro is a B&M hypercoaster, and a Giga is basically a supersized version of that. If they were to build a Giga, it would be very similar to Nitro in the fact that a lot of parts can be used interchangeably between Nitro and the Giga, and it would just have a lot going for it that would make it really, really good at the park. Obviously, they got to be careful where they place such a ride, as if they were to build a Giga, it's not going to be the tallest coaster in the park, which is kind of awkward. You already have King Ka there, and when a Giga is at the park, typically it is the tallest coaster at that park, Cedar Point pretty much being the only exception, but I do still think it could happen. As for where, more than likely it'll end up on the side of Nitro, as strange as that sounds, but I could see it going on the other side of the park too. If we're trying to figure out where specifically in the park the ride could go, I do think a great spot for it would be to replace the arena next to Medusa. That thing has not been used in years. I think they should just tear it out and put a nice huge Giga back there running through the woods. There's plenty of space. They could go over the safari, or well, they don't really even have to go to the safari. They could just use the land near the safari where the Expedition Dino thing was. That'd be a perfect spot for it. Another spot I could see it going if they wanted to have it interact with the park more is somewhere in Metropolis. Have the station be there, just have it run through the park. That would be great too. Personally, I would prefer to see it over by Medusa, but either way, a Giga would probably be one of the best additions they could possibly add to Great Adventure. But don't count out the other models, more specifically a dive coaster. I think a dive coaster is also very likely to come to the park in 2024, but only time will tell what Great Adventure winds up getting in 2024. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Especially let me know in the comments what you think Great Adventure is going to build for our 50th anniversary. If you're very opinionated on what you think we'll be getting for 2024, stay tuned for an opportunity coming very soon to voice your opinions on the channel. But that is it for this video. I'm Con from Hollywood Studios, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.